You're listening to the Launchcast, the podcast about leadership, business, life, and growth with me, your host, George Andriopoulos.
It's like food for your ears.
At this time, I'm going to ask that you fasten your seatbelts.
Launch sequence.
Launch sequence activated.
Launch sequence activated.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo! Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Launchcast. Whew, it's been a couple of weeks. Chills. Feels goosebumps. Episode 110 today. Thank you for coming back, guys. It's Just Shut Up. You had me at Beurre Blanc with our guest today, Allison Fasano. But before we bring her in, I got to do my intro, right? Because you guys all missed it. It's your favorite podcast intro. I am the launch dad himself, George Andriopoulos, bringing you your favorite podcast on the planet, talking about my favorite things. We're talking leadership, life, business, and growth. And we're talking about it all because it's my show and I'll talk about whatever I want to. With us today, we have Allison Fasano. Chef Allison. Hey.
Hi, George.
Thank you for being here with us.
Of course.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. I'm going to do the quick intro before we jump in here. Allison knew at the age of 11 years old that she wanted to become a chef after seeing the Food Network for the first time. She fell in love with communicating through food. She began cooking alongside her father, who inspired her to just say yes to opportunities, something we're going to be talking about today. A message she didn't fully realize until he passed away 3 years ago. Her passion and drive took her halfway around the globe to study culinary arts in Calabria, Italy, where she specialized in regional Italian cuisine, or what Allison refers to as Nonna style. Food that tells you a story and gives you a hug on the inside. So much more, guys. Her passion and dynamic personality landed Allison in the most exciting culinary scenes in NYC, cooking alongside people she looked up to as heroes and now calls friends. Now, for the past 15 years, she has worked in Michelin star restaurants, including the Sagamore, Lydia and Joe Bastian. What is that?
Bastianich.
Tell me.
Tell me.
You say it.
Bastianich.
There you go.
Thanks.
Del Posto. And most recently, Gatto with Bobby Flay's team as a sous chef. In 2017, she joined Urbani Truffle as one of their resident chefs and a whole bunch of other projects. She is a TEDx speaker and has appeared on Food Network's Beat Bobby Flay, Chopped, Fios' Restaurant Hunters, and Newsday Feed Me TV. She was recently featured by ChefWorks in February 2019, and she just shot a TV show on the new Disney Pixar streaming network, Quibi. Stay tuned for details on that. Holy shnikes. That's a long bio.
I mean, it's getting bigger, so.
And you're only 29.
I'm only 29.
Holy crap.
I'm making it to 30, George.
Yeah, you are making it to very soon, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Very, very soon. Thank you for being here. This is so awesome. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's my pleasure. I never really get an opportunity to speak very often. So, when I do, I really take a full opportunity on to say stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to hear that because, you and I have talked about this a little bit, but, the speaking world and what people do on it, whether it's on a stage, on a podcast, or just kind of getting your voice out there and your message out there, it's really important. You and I met just because you were a chef here in town. I met you through a colleague of mine, and then subsequently, a little while after we met, you actually spoke on my stage at TEDxFarmingdale.
Yep.
And we were so excited to have you. You talked about food waste, which I want you to get into a little bit later. But you've been sort of taking this journey as a speaker and sort of using the medium of food to get out there and spread some important messages.
Yeah, and if you would have told me like 10 years ago, someday you're going to be a public speaker, I'd been like, yeah, right. Stop playing.
Yeah, well, it's really a leader that can sort of transform what they do and their passion in life and turn it into a message for others. And that's something I want to ask you right now, and that's really the first question that we ask all of our guests. Are you a leader?
I think absolutely, because I feel like my biggest thing is I'm very relatable. I love some comedians, and I'm like, oh, their jokes are funny because it's like relatable. Like, you get it. I feel like I'm a very relatable person. And then somebody told me recently, they're like, Alison, I think people like you because you don't take yourself too seriously. And that's that's a very accurate statement. That person seems like they know me very well. So I think that's why, because I'm very relatable, and I'm very like elbows on the table type of a person, you know?
Yeah. So what does that mean to you in terms of leadership? Like, what is your definition of a leader?
I think leadership, it doesn't matter where you are in your career. Sometimes if you could say or do something and people recognized, I think you have to show, not tell people what to do. Like, it's like in a restaurant, whether I'm an executive chef or whatever my title is, I'm that one who sweeps and mops the floor and takes out the garbage. And people always like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because that's how I work.
Sure.
You know, so I think that when you show and not tell people what to do, I think you are a leader. It doesn't matter how old you are or what profession you are in. No matter what your level is, I think you could still inspire people, because I think we all got where we are because somebody else inspired us.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting you say that. So number one is I love the thought of team leadership. When you don't put yourself ahead of the team, you know, and you sort of go in there to perform one goal together, a number of things happen. Number one is that you're leading by example, right, which is super important. And number two is you're actually helping to lift other people as you lead. You know, if they're as vested in the work, right, if it's not all, hey, this is my kitchen, and although you guys are going to cook for me, I'm the one that's going to get the glory. It's we got the glory as the kitchen. Yeah. You're going to elevate them.
Absolutely.
That line cook is going to become a sous chef, is going to become an executive chef. I'm sure that's how it happened for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about taking, like, you have to take one step. Like, you have to learn how to walk first. And I think that's in all careers. Like, you have to, like, start at the bottom, and it's always about earning your stripes and gaining respect by people that are in your profession.
Right.
So I think that's what's really important. And I might be 29, but I feel like I've done a lot in my career so far, and I continue to always do and go out and do more bigger and better stuff. I'm always like, what can I do next?
Yeah. To me, the sign of a leader, honestly, I've never been a believer in, you know, age needs to hold you back, or even having a college degree needs to define what you do for a living, or your success in life. Because when you kind of have that ability, when you have that, I don't know, that built-in leadership, although I do think that leadership is learned a lot of times from experiences, when you sort of have that innate reflex built into you, it kind of helps you along in the process, you know, throughout life, and gets you to that point eventually where that leadership will start to shine, whether you're 29 or 69, you know. So I want to talk about one thing before we jump into the order of events here. We always start sort of from baby Allison, and we work up to 29, just shy of 30 Allison. That's how we do things here. But one thing I want to address first, since we're talking about leadership, we're talking about public speaking. I've been reading in my research about you, about your mantra. You do a fair amount of public speaking now, and I'm sure that's going to increase as the years pass and your experience builds. But this whole say yes to every opportunity mantra, I love this thing. We had a mutual colleague that told me about your keynote at the Athena Long Island Leadership Awards, and I love the message that you sent out. So tell us about that message of say yes to every opportunity, and sort of where that came from and how you apply it.
Yeah, so like growing up, my father always used to say, you know, if you don't put yourself out there, no one's will know you exist. So I never knew what that actually meant to after he passed away. I knew it meant to say yes to opportunities, because he used to say, you know, no one's will go out, and I always wanted to have my own TV show and be on the Food Network, and he was like, you know, no one's will come to you and be like, here's your show. You have to like go out and get it. And, you know, start saying yes. So when I started saying yes, I realized how many doors that has opened. And sometimes I think sometimes I say yes, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that, but I figure it out later. So I think that's what you have to do. So I think he definitely inspired me to say yes to, you know, opportunities. And, you know, sometimes I think you're afraid to say yes. I think people are afraid to say yes. I think it's fair to say, you know, anything new that you're about to jump into. But when you say yes, you realize, like, you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's going to be there, what connections you're going to make, and somebody might look at you and be like, oh, you know what, you'll be great at this.
Right.
You know, like I said yes to doing the TED Talks. I remember being like, why am I doing a TED Talk? Or, I said yes to Jen when we did the, Athena Awards. And I remember getting to the Athena Awards and being like, why am I giving a speech on leadership? Like, why am I here? Like, why am I doing this? And then, you say yes, you do your speech, and then people are like, well, that inspired me. Or, people even reaching out after this and being like, I loved your message, and somebody asked me to do something, and I said yes because of what you said. And I'm like, that's all about saying yes. I feel like, I think we're afraid, but this it's like going in a pool. You just have to go in head first.
Well, that's the effect of leadership, right? In essence, in that when you put yourself out there, leadership to me is all about just standing up and say, okay, I'll do it. I'll be the one, right?
Yeah.
And so when you get up there and just tell people how you got to some kind of success, and that can rub off on one person, that's a huge deal. I put a post up yesterday, a social media post. I'm getting into my own speaker season now for the next few months. I have a bunch of things booked.
That's my favorite season, George.
Isn't
Speaker
it?
season. I think that's everybody. It's like baseball, football, speaker season.
It's winter.
Yes.
It's winter, speaker season, spring,
Yeah.
summer. Yeah.
It's my favorite. I think everybody who's listening is like, that's my favorite. Speaker season.
I put a post up about this, talking about the responsibility that it takes to be a leader and to be on a stage. And I put out this thought of, when I get up on a stage, I have this inner thought of like, hey, I know that I'm helping at least one person with this talk. And if I've helped one person at every talk that I've done, that's a lot of people. What if I help 5 people, 10 people, 100 people at every talk? So that's really creating a lot of change. So I definitely, I think you're doing a great job so far at this age, and I can't wait to see what more you do.
Yeah, and I also think that when you do, like, whether you do a speech or you could have you don't have to be on a stage or a platform,
Right.
but when you talk to somebody, sometimes somebody would say something today, and like 10 years down the road, you're like, oh, that's what this person meant by this.
Yeah.
Like, you finally, it like clicks.
It
So
clicks.
you remember what they said.
Yep.
I remember people said things to me, and I'm like, I don't get what that means. I remember a chef told me once, Alison, you could bend the tree when it's young, not when it's old. And I was just like, at the time, I didn't know what that meant. And then, like, as I got older and, moved on in my career, I remember seeing these kids straight out of culinary school, and you could be like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And, like, they absorb everything like a sponge. And then I was like, oh, this is what this means. Like, you can mold them, like, when they're young, and then, to however you want, and train them and teach them stuff. So I was like, that's what he meant by
Did that have an effect on you later in life? Kind of.
It did,
that
because I
moment
say
you
that all
realized
the time, and then people think I made that up. So people are like, wow, Alison, you have a lot of great. I was like, I didn't make that up, but they don't need to know.
Like,
that.
you're like
but now
the-
everybody just knows I didn't make that saying up.
You're like the Yoda of the culinary world.
I mean, you can
dropping
bend the
knowledge
tree
bombs.
when it's young, not when it's old.
Yeah, those are something we talk about in the show a lot. We talk about spark moments, these moments in life where sometimes you realize in the moment, and sometimes you don't realize until later on. But it's these moments where you kind of look back and you understand, and you go, yeah, that was pivotal for me. Just learning that bit of knowledge or experiencing what I experienced, that was pivotal to my growth as a person.
Absolutely. I think, like, majority of the times when I talk about something, you have to remember, like, I cook, I work in the food business, so everything's, like, relatable to that. But I feel like some topics it's in every career,
Yeah. All right, let's get to the fun stuff here.
Okay,
We're
let's
gonna
go.
talk about the journey here. We're gonna start in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which was probably not as gentrified as it is now when you
No.
live there.
So I was
Yeah.
born and raised in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. That's why, I talk a little different than everybody else.
That's okay. We were just talking
Sometimes
about.
I need a translator.
We were just talking about before the show my Long Island. What do you call it? A drawl, an accent? I don't know. That gives you a little character. I like that.
Yeah, it does. I know I mispronounce a lot of words, and a lot of times I tend to, like, mumble, and then I was like, or I talk really fast. So, like, doing, like, public speaking, I've learned to kind of simmer down a bit.
Simmer down.
I turn
Simmer
the pot
son.
down a little. The pot's just on simmer at this point. Can't be on boiling.
So little baby Allison running
Little baby
around.
Allison.
She's running around in a diaper and a do-rag. Right?
That's pretty accurate. I mean, my mom sends you some baby pics.
Oh, that would be great. Your
No.
mom is on, by the way.
Oh, she is. Okay,
Is that Debbie?
great. Debbie's on.
Debbie posted
Yeah.
that your mom is watching.
My mom she wants to know if this will be over before The Young and the Restless starts. 12:30.
So little baby Allison, do-rag in a diaper, running
pretty
around,
accurate.
listening to Celine Dion,
Listen to Celine Dion. That's
blasting
right.
it. My heart
Yeah.
will go on.
Yeah, so I actually loved Celine Dion since I was 4 years old. And people like, that's so weird. I'm almost like, well, when my uncle got married, his wedding song was The Power of Love by Celine.
Ah.
So the next day when we went out, I begged my mom to buy me like the Celine Dion. I think at the time it was like a cassette.
Yeah.
And since then, I've just always loved Celine Dion.
You're a Dion head since then.
I've been a Dion head, rocking hardcore to Celine. But when you go to like a public school in Brooklyn and you're listening to the latest Celine Dion album, you're not like the coolest kid in school.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I'm
everybody
saying?
in Brooklyn's listening to Big E.
No, that's
And
you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. I remember like listening to Celine Dion. Like the teachers loved my choice of music,
I'm
but
sure the
nobody,
teachers did.
nobody else did, and it was fine. So at that movement, I known that I was going to be something special. Like I was like stuff that nobody else likes, and it was fine.
So Celine Dion made you
Celine
feel like you
Dion.
were special.
Celine Dion made me feel special. Like at
Did
that
you make-
moment, I was just like, I'm gonna like everything that nobody else likes.
Did you make it hardcore to be a Dion fan?
I mean, I actually have a Celine Dion tattoo. I think a lot of people know that.
Oh my God. I
It
would
says my
love
heart
to
will
see
go
that.
on.
Yes.
My
Is that
heart will
real?
go- It is real. My heart will go on.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so.
We're going to end the
hardcore-
show on that. Done.
All right, so thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. So, Dion.
Yep.
And then we move on. And then we move on to your love of food. So I read somewhere that you started watching the Food Network after school every day at 11 years old, and that's where it all began.
And
right?
that's where the magic happened. So, actually, I never really watched the Food Network before. Like, also, like, what are you watching at 11? I mean, who's watching the Food Network? I mean, Alison is.
My kids love the Food Network, by the way.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I was like flipping through the channels and I landed across this show, and I was like, I couldn't seem to change channel. This person like had this great ability to let their walls down and let people in, and they were such a great storyteller, and they just always smiled the whole time. And that show was actually 30-Minute Meals with Rachel Ray. So I remember going to my dad. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be Rachel Ray. And he was like, you know, you're going to be better than Rachel Ray. And then that's kind of how the whole cooking journey started. So I found my love of food, and, you know, I didn't do very well in school because I was like at home watching the Food Network. And I think I would record shows. Like before there was DVR, I used to like put in a VHS tape and like record shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like hardcore.
That was you.
That was my school.
You had a bunch of tapes labeled.
Bunch of lineups
Food Network.
going. Everyday Italian season 1, pop it in.
So talk to me about besides. Well, you could talk about the Food Network too, but talk to me about your cooking influences when you were young, when you were that young.
So, you know, my mom's listening, so we can't. She didn't really cook anything. So growing up, so she'll tell you that's
Please tune
real.
out, Debbie. Please tune out.
So that's a pretty accurate statement. But before I was born, my father was a baker. So we used to like bake like growing up. So like I would cook a lot with him, and my father was Italian. So we used to make all the Italian goodies. And so he was like, we would barbecue a lot too. And of course, watching the Food Network, that was like my biggest influence. Like I used to just like sit on the couch for hours and just watch the Food Network. Like on a Friday night, I was home at 9 o'clock, no matter where I was, to watch back-to-back episodes of $40 a Day with Rachel Ray. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
I actually, you know, it's bad that I remember the time slot she was on. It was 9 o'clock on Friday. So I didn't really have like the hardcore, let's go out on Friday night. I was just like, okay, got to go home
That's
and watch
okay.
the Food Network.
It worked out, didn't it?
It worked out for me.
It's funny you say your dad was a baker. We were spitballing some ideas for the show title, and we came up with "Shut Up, You Had Me at Beurre Blanc" as
Yeah.
the title, which I've been told that
I'm
is
gonna put
not
that
a
on
good
my
title.
I'm gonna put that on my Tinder like tagline. Not on that if anybody's listening.
There were two other choices. One choice was "May the Fork Be With You,"
Oh, that's a good one.
which didn't work out. And if you were a baker, it would have been "Go ahead, bake my day."
Oh,
So
I love this one. Like I saw your title. I was like, that's pretty cool. I would never thought to make a title like that.
Yeah, we like the
It's
kitschy titles here.
That's a. And also, you wrote Beurre Blanc. That's like a fancy word, George. I'm so proud of you.
Go in my Google history from last night, and I was Googling top cooking terms, top professional cooking terms, and I saw Beurre Blanc. I was like, all right, we're trying to make it rhyme with, not rhyme, but make it sound like you had me at hello. You had me at Beurre Blanc. All right, it worked out. It worked out.
It did work out.
So it's funny that you were watching Rachel Ray on TV, and and we'll get into this, but you now actually know Rachel Ray.
That's a pretty accurate statement. I do have her phone number. I forgot to tell her to tune in today. I'll get back to her a little later.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Rachel, please shout us out. We need it. We need it. Yeah, we'll get into that. But it's crazy how you get to meet some of your heroes when you're really passionate about what you do, right?
Yeah, and then also my thing in my head is like, you ever talk to yourself before you do something like
Always.
act cool? Like you do like a whole pump, like,
That's
like you
exactly
do
what I
these,
did before
like,
you got here. I was
leans
like,
in,
all right, George,
like,
act cool.
Yeah, you do like a lean in, like.
Yeah. What's up?
I'm cool.
What's up?
Yeah, that's pretty. That was what
What's
I
up?
was doing the first time I met. Well, actually, the first time I met Rachel Ray, I won't lie, I cried.
Okay.
I was like 18, went to like a book signing. I was so excited, and when I get really excited, or when I laugh really hard, I cry.
Okay.
I don't like my emotions are really messed up. So I meet Rachel with a shirt that says "I Heart Rachel Ray" on it, and then like I still have the photo today. Like we're hugging, and I'm crying, and it was like it was just like a
You
lot.
got to get me that to post.
I will. Don't
Yeah.
worry. I have it framed in my house.
So I want to talk about your first job in your younger years. So your first job was at 14 years old in an Italian bakery in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about how that sort of influenced the career going forward.
Yeah, so of course, like when you're 14, who's hiring you? Like, let's face these facts. So I remember going to this bakery, and he was like, well, why do you want to work here? And actually, my answer was, I love the smell of bread, which if anybody has ever been out to a restaurant with me, they put bread on the table, and the first thing I do is smell the bread to this day. Like, everybody knows that. It's like a weird thing. I've done it since I was a kid. My friend's always like, I know what Alison's will do. She still smell the bread. It's what I do. So
Yeah, you're weird. It's okay.
It's a little weird, but I just love the smell of bread. I think the smell of yeast, like everybody knows I make pasta a lot, the dough, the yeast, it's very like a therapeutic
Sure.
smell.
I get it.
It's like a, I don't know, it's a weird thing.
I get it.
But I just love the smell of bread. So that's how I got a job there, because I love the smell of bread. So I would like cord the bread. I did all the jobs there that I didn't get hired to do. And then they'd be like, Alison, you're supposed to work the counter. And I was like, I don't want to bag cookies for people.
Yeah.
You
want to be in the back cooking.
Yeah, I would
baking.
be like scoring the bread with like the knife, and we would put the bread in the oven, and then I would like pipe cannolis, and like that's what I really enjoyed doing. They're like, Alison, you're supposed to work, the counter. Like so and so wants a cappuccino, and I was like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, you knew what you wanted.
Well, I knew that's why I worked there, to do like the food part. They're like, you could work the counter. I was like, I got this. So weeble my way into the back.
So before you finished up high school, you had a couple of other jobs, right?
Yeah, we spoke about where I actually worked because we're drinking coffee from there today. Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it's like the high point of my career. It's definitely not on my resume.
Uh-huh.
But I consider myself to be a barista now.
Okay, there you go.
So,
Wait, are they actually baristas at Dunkin' Donuts?
I mean,
Technically?
also, George, you met me. I make a lot of stories up. So,
And we will say the famous podcast line, Dunkin' Donuts is not a sponsor,
okay,
but they could be.
I did. And here's...
Look at that. This whole thing is powered by Dunkin' Donuts,
Yeah, we just...
unofficially.
Unofficially powered.
So during this whole time, talk to me about how your family supported your dream. Well, first of all, I should say, when did you actually make the decision that you want to do this for?
Oh, at 11.
At 11.
Bam.
Done.
And also, like when you say things when you're a kid, like, I want to grow up and do this, and people are like, you're going to change your mind.
Yep.
No.
Done.
I was done. I saw Rachel, and I was like, that's what I want to do. But I feel like a lot of people, when I tell them the story of how, I knew I wanted to become a chef after seeing Rachel Ray, everyone always says, she's not a chef, she's a cook. And I'm like, that's why I love Rachel. Because I think she never tries to be something that she's not.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you ever know Rachel's story, like if you ask her, she's like, I should have never been on TV. She's like, I'm just a server from upstate New York. She just did like local TV. And then she finally did like a segment on like the Today Show, and somebody from Food Network saw her, and she was just like, I'm not what you want. I'm not a chef. And she walked out of the interview at Food Network. And then I guess you could say the rest is history, because she has a daytime talk show and she wins Emmy Awards. And I think her message and how she was like, even, when I was 11 to now, it's like the same. She doesn't try to be anything she's not.
Right.
She still tells a great story. She's still doing those 30-minute meals. And
Yep.
I think that's why she's relatable. And she also cooks food that you could find locally at your grocery store. All the ingredients that she's using. And she reaches such a big audience. Because I think a lot of times you tune into a cooking show, whether if you're a home cook or you're a professional chef, and you want to make what that person's making. And I think Rachel created such a brand for herself that she still carries for, all these years. So
Yeah. So she's not putting like gooey duck in her recipes or anything
no,
like that.
she's not. And I think it's so important, like when you, like I've done a few cooking classes, and I always want to use ingredients that you can find at your local grocery store because I feel like you're more likely to make it. Because I remember there would be like this one show I would watch, and they would say, you can only find this ingredient one time a year in Italy. I think that's when you go click, because you're obviously not making that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you relate to people, like I bought this here, and then that's why, Rachel's so relatable. And I've met her several times, and she's nothing but so nice, and she's so fabulous. And it's like, how do you like not like her?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you a side note before we move on. Speaking of the ingredients that you use, is there a like signature taste for you in terms of seasoning, spices that you like to use? And I'll use as an example. I grew up in a Greek household, but we cooked Italian, we cooked whatever. Now I cook different kind of cuisines, but the taste for me of salt, pepper, and oregano on anything is just king.
Yeah.
King.
I always think like salt and pepper is really important to food. I think a lot of times when I try a dish, I'm like, I need some more salt. Like salt is really important. Also, I love using kosher salt. I feel like people use iodine salt, which is, I just want to say side note, like 2 years ago, I didn't know it was pronounced iodized salt, so I used to call it idolized salt. And then somebody was like, Alison, I love you, but it's not called idolized salt. And I was just like, who knew? And then I was so, I can't be good at everything, but kosher salt, I just like really big, bold, like flavorful foods.
Yeah.
Like I like food that has many different like layers to it. But, like there should be flavor in every layer of food. So,
Yeah.
but I could eat anything really.
Yeah.
It depends what I'm in the mood for.
Sure. Sure. So I want to move on to when you were working at the Sagamore in Lake George at 17 years old. That had a big influence on you, right?
Yeah, I feel like the Sagamore was like my school because I like learned how to do everything there. I was like a hostess, I was a server, I worked room service, I cooked there, I worked banquets. So it's kind of like I did everything, and I learned so much working there. And I got hired there when I was like 17. My Aunt Diane worked there. And also, side note, Rachel Ray worked there back in the early 90s.
Oh.
So, we're kind of like the same
So like
person.
samesies, right? Yeah, okay.
Samesies.
I feel like in 10 years I'm going to read about you wearing like Rachel Ray's like skin suit or something.
Me and Rachel, the same person. A few years from now, like I'm gonna be hosting a show like Rachel.
Yes, you are.
I'll have an Emmy or just be nominated for one. I'm like a nominated person. Like I don't need to win. Just want to be nominated because when you win, there's nowhere else to go. So I just want to be like straight across the board nominated. So like working at the Sagamore, I got hired as like a hostess. That was my first job there. And actually my last job there, I was the head chef of the same restaurant. So.
Oh, cow. Wow.
Wing, wing.
Look at you. Full circle.
Full circle.
You did it, baby.
I remember like some of the same people worked there and they were like, Alison, remember you, the hostess? I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I wasn't really a good hostess because like, we did the TED Talks and you were like, you have to stand in the circle. And I actually really can't stay still. That's my problem. So like being a hostess and you just stand there was not, I knew that I couldn't. So I was everywhere else besides at the hostess stand. And somebody was like, in order to see people, you actually have to be at the hostess stand. And I was like, interesting. Didn't know that. People want to tune in for the rest because I feel like I haven't even told my best jokes yet.
You have not. And
yeah,
she
we're just
is a
really
comedian.
warming up. I'm really pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in the wrong career. I'm just switching over.
This lady does comedy
So funny.
in her
Naturally.
kitchen. Naturally.
Naturally.
Look at you. You do it all.
I'm kind of like if Rachel Ray meets Chelsea Handler.
There you go. I can
That's
see
what I
that.
am. It's the blonde hair about the Chelsea.
I hope there's less vodka involved.
I mean, also, me
Or
and
not.
Chelsea's birthdays are a few days apart.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's a Pisces. We're both blonde.
Yeah.
We're both really funny.
Is that another one that you're stalking currently, or is
I
it
do
just
love.
Rachel
I've
Ray?
always loved Chelsea Handler. I think she's just so funny, and her jokes are very relatable. She's like a great storyteller. When she tells a story, you could like picture yourself being there.
She is.
But a lot of her stories, I don't think you actually really want to be there with her. But
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
I have all her books actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I have all her books. I've seen her do stand up a couple of times
It's very funny.
in person. Like really,
Very
really
funny.
funny. Yeah. Let's get back to it. So the Sagamore. After that, so you graduated high school. Interestingly enough, you wanted to go to CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, and you got denied.
Yeah, I mean, why do you have to bring that up, George?
How'd that feel?
No,
How'd that feel, Allison?
terrible.
Tell me.
So actually, the CIA was the only school I wanted to go to. Like even before I stepped into high school, I was like, I'm gonna go to the Culinary Institute of America. So like senior year, that was the only school I applied to. And I remember getting this letter and said, "Sorry, you're not accepted." And I just remember I cried. I was so sad that I didn't get accepted. And then since that day forward, I've worked with a lot of people from that school, and I purposely work right next to them. So
I love
to
that.
show that I might be a little bit better, and I
The
tell them
spark
the
moment.
story.
That's a spark moment right there.
Yeah.
Rejection, and I've experienced this so many times. Rejection, for me, there were certain moments of rejection in my life that really became pivotal, where I either said, I have to move on from this, or I'm going to be better than anybody at this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the CIA is a little sorry now because they could have had this star underneath their belt, but YOLO. So
And you are a star. YOLO.
Thank you.
Hashtag YOLO. What is growth look like after that moment, right? You're in that moment of rejection. You're despondent. You're upset. You're crying. And then you have to figure out how to move forward. What is that, once you sort of grieve what happened with that rejection, what's that moment where you kind of say, all right, it's time to move on?
oh, like 5 seconds later.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, that's how Alison moves. Gets denied. See you in 5 minutes.
So
I'll
you
be
have no
back.
feelings whatsoever. You have a cold black heart.
I mean, but also like, how long are you gonna dwell on something? I'm like, you didn't not getting accepted to a school. It's not like the worst thing that could possibly happen. And there's so many other culinary schools out there. So it's like, why am I gonna cry over this? Like, just give me 5 seconds. Let's get over it and let's see where we could move forward from there.
Yeah, I love that. You wound up going to Johnson & Wales for a year
Yes.
and then decided,
Let's just do Italian cuisine.
yeah, time for a change. And then you went to Calabria, Italy at 19 to study at the Italian Culinary Institute.
Yep.
Yeah, talk to me about that experience. And I'm going to ask you a really good question about this after you tell us about the experience there. But I want to hear about what was the goal going in there?
So, going to Italy was great because that's what I want to study is Italian cuisine, and what better way than to go where it comes from. So I studied regional Italian cuisine. So Calabria, if you don't know, it's like the southern part of Italy. So we did everything from pasta to gelato to bread. Studied because, each region, there's 20 regions of Italy. Each region has dishes that they're known for. We learned about wine and olive oils and like real Italian food because people say, oh, I love Italian food. Chicken Parmesan's my favorite. I'm like, that's not Italian. And people get like really sad when I tell them this. So it's about knowing the food and like what comes from there and what's real Italian food. And I think what the Italian cuisine has taught me is like, in Italy, they have some of the best produce in the world. So it's about showcasing each ingredient for what it is. And, that's what I loved about going to Italy and learning about like the food and the ingredients and the experience and meeting the people. And it definitely like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that follow me on like social media or whatever. I do make pastas a lot and I love the Italian cuisine, and pasta's like my favorite thing to eat. So.
Yeah. It's interesting you say showcasing each ingredient, because when you think about the different different types of cuisine from all over the world, when you look at Italian food, really the ingredients are the MVPs, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's not where there are some cultures where I think of paella, where there's a lot of like a mishmash of different ingredients that sort of come to make one big flavor. But with Italian food, it's really like each thing is its own star in the meal.
Absolutely. And it's all about, this like layers of flavors. And in Italian cuisine, really, like if you look at recipes, it's not like multiple ingredients. It's like minimal ingredients, really showcasing their flavors and what they have to offer. And I think that's where I had this love, like the Nonna style, which is very like rustic. And that's like my favorite style to cook, or as I call it, very like elbows on the table. Like at restaurants, I love describing restaurants as that because it's more like relax. And even like plating wise, I always tell people organic, rustic, like let the food fall where it is. Like you don't have to perfectly plate it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a good place to cut this off. We're going to get into next
All the dirty details.
all the dirty, dirty details.
We're gonna
All the hidden secrets that Allison doesn't know I'm going to be bringing up
I'm
here.
gonna tell you who my Valentine is.
Oh, my God.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't have one. Applications are open now. I know.
Swipe right for Allison Fasano. She is on every
Maybe
major...
I do. Maybe I don't.
She
Who
is on
knows?
every major dating app out there.
That's not true. I'm not.
She's not.
I'm
kidding.
not. Can you imagine? I don't even know what to do. People are like, what's your interest? I don't know.
You got to get on that celebrity one.
Is there
I
one?
forget what it is called. Oh, man, I got to look this up. I'll mention it in the second segment. There's a celebrity one. There's one where it's all celebrities on there. There's like a
feel
vetting
like
process.
I would not do very well on IBS. I just can't.
Really?
I'm more on like Instagram and Facebook. I'm not a dating app type of gal.
All right.
You know.
All right. Then you just be here. Be on the Launchcast.
Thanks. I'm also really a cheap date because I really don't eat or drink a lot. So that's
Perfect. And we're getting into that next time. We are. The Launchcast is sponsored today by the Leadership Experience, a coaching masterclass. Intentional, unconventional, thoughtful leadership from keynote speaker, CEO, nonprofit board member, and TEDx executive producer, George Andriopoulos. Hey, that's me. Guys, the music's getting louder, which either means that this is a can't-miss epic course or that Fabrizio fell asleep at the controls again. Registration opens on February 1st, and we are beginning on March 1st. This music is so damn loud, and that means it's going to be amazing. And Fabrizio's pay is definitely getting docked this week. Join us, the Leadership EXP, for details. You don't want to miss this. So how was the experience in Calabria?
It was incredible, to go somewhere and learn about a culture and cuisine. And I think we all have this image in our head what Italian cuisine is, and then you really go there and we're like, oh, this is what real Italian cuisine is.
Right.
And to experience it and see what grows wild and to learn about all these different regions and, what comes from what region and, each area of Italy has food that they're known for that they cook. Like if you're in the southern part of Italy, it's more seafood forward. Citrus grows wild. It's hotter. They're spicier food. Whether you're in the north and there's a lot of like ragouts and heavier because it's, based off the climate, it's a little colder in the north. And what grows wild and, like about olive oils and wine and all that stuff. So it's like important or interesting knowledge that I've never really thought about before, like learning about Italy in particular.
Right.
About what the real true cuisine is. So I think that was what was so important to me. So even after I came back home, I just wanted to teach people more about and educate about the Italian cuisine because people talk about penne alla vodka and chicken parm. I'm like, that's not Italian.
Right.
I think a lot of people would be surprised to know there's one dish in Italy. It's called Parmigiana, which is eggplant. So those chicken parm, shrimp parm that we have here in America, that's not.
Yeah, like
Italian.
bastardized, sort of.
Yeah, but I also think that happens in any culture.
It does.
Like in Mexico, like what people think of Mexican cuisine here, it's really not what it is.
Yeah. What was funny was I can attest to that in terms of the Greek culture. So I've only been to Greece once. I went when I was 12 years old. My parents sent me with like this church tour group that went there, and I was so looking forward to having a gyro in Greece.
And they're
because
like,
I love gyros. There's no gyros in Greece. Like
Yeah.
we found in Athens, there was a place that had gyros, and it was like okay. The only difference was they put the fries in the gyro, but that was it. There's no gyros in Greece. That's not a
Also,
thing.
I
That's
think isn't it pronounced gyro?
Gyro.
Yes.
Gyro. Yeah.
So that's another mistake. Now we're mispronouncing food too.
Yeah.
I think it happens because, we always have this conversation among chefs. We're like, well, what is American cuisine, right? Because, America, you have all these different countries and cultures that, came here and they brought their cuisines with them. So it's kind of like America's like a mix
Yeah.
of all cuisines, like you could go get, Mexican, Italian, Greek. And then I think over time, anything becomes like Americanized because like when somebody says what's American cuisine, like the first thing that pops in my head is like hot dogs and hamburgers.
Yeah, burger. Right.
Like even like pizza that we have here, like, yes, pizza does come from Italy, Naples, and to be particular.
But it's not Italian pizza.
No, but anywhere you go in Italy, they do those like personal size pies, and then here we're having like massive size pies.
Well, that's
but
everything here.
I would have to say, if you want real Italian cuisine without leaving New York, check out Keste Pizza down by the Wall Street area.
Okay.
Roberto's like one of the best pizzaiolos in the world, and he is from Naples, and it's like that's real deal delicious pizza.
Awesome.
Keste.
I will definitely check that out, and we'll put the link up in the show notes too for that. And that's not an advertisement.
No,
but it could be.
It could be. I've actually met Roberto several times. I've had his pizza. He's just so sweet, so nice, and just like he's like really showcasing real deal pizza. Like, go there. That's real deal.
Yep. Awesome. I have an interesting question for you about Italy. Tell me the main difference for Allison, right, between Allison before Italy and Allison after Italy.
I feel like I came back a more educated woman. Like I was like, oh, I was telling everybody, that's not Italian. I went on this phase where people like this, penne alla vodka, and I would say, that's not Italian. Right. So I went on that, but also I just learned so much about that trip and that journey and traveling in Italy and really learning history and, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And, you have food there and you take a bite of pizza and you see all these vegetables and fruit and, these markets and I think if you're a chef or not, you walk through a market, it inspires you. You're like, I want to make something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I definitely looked at produce differently, I would say, because you go in Italy, you see these beautiful tomatoes. You're like, I just want to showcase that tomato, and it's about, building layers of flavor of food. And I think, some things I came back and mastered the art of risotto, which a lot of people. So sometimes I want to go to a restaurant. So I'm not a really big rice eater, but I love making risotto. So I'll go to restaurants and I see risotto and I'm like, that's not risotto. A key to risotto, it should always move with the plate because it's a creamy, you incorporate air.
Sure.
So that's what so now I go to restaurants and I'm not one of those people who go out to eat and I complain because I could eat anything.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not what that should be.
Yeah.
So I have to critique it a little bit in my head, but I don't really tell people.
It's all right. You were in the right.
I'll tell you.
So Italy made you more judgmental, basically.
Yeah. But I think, because, I went to Italy at a young age and I gained really big knowledge about, the Italian cuisine and cooking. And, we did olive oil tasting. It's I've never thought about doing an olive oil tasting. And then you learn how to taste. And I think over time, especially in this career, we learn how to have a better palate.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll taste something and I'm not critiquing it. I'm thinking, well, it needs more acid. It needs more citrus. It needs salt. You should have added this. It needs a crunch. So when I try food, I'm not this is good or this is bad. I'm what does it need? And I think that's what chefs think when they try food. We're not just seeing if we like it or not. It's what else could it need?
Yeah.
How could we do this differently? Whether we're trying somebody else's dish or we are experimenting in our own homes, we're seeing how could I have made this better? Should I have cooked this more or less? Should I add a crunch? Does it need citrus? Does it need an acid? What does it need?
Yeah.
So, as you progress in this profession, you train your palate to see what food needs by experimenting.
Very cool. Very cool. So you finish up in Italy, you come home, right? And you're really launching your career. I heard a really interesting little factoid in a video that you actually shared on your social media. The fact was that only 7% of women that go to culinary schools go into restaurant management or become restaurateurs.
Yeah. So that 7% means 7% right now in the United States are women-owned restaurants or women are executive chefs. 7%.
Right. 7%.
7%.
What was it like to go out into the world where that exists, and you're going into an industry where the odds are against you. You look at that 7% number, but if you look at it in a different way, there's a 93% chance that you will be just a line cook,
Yeah. But actually, I did not know this number when I first started out. So I went to this women's chef conference out in Minneapolis. And that's like, it had to be like last year or the year before. I attended both years. And they said that number, and I was just like, no way.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't look around and be like, there's no female chefs. There's no this. Like, it's not even like questions like I even thought about. Like, that's not like.
Well, that wasn't your thing going into it. You just wanted to cook.
I just wanted to cook. So like, I probably found this out about like 2 years ago when they brought up this number at this conference, and I was just like, it's not something you think of. Like, I've worked under, female executive chefs before, so like I didn't really be like, where's all the female chefs? It's not a question I've ever asked myself in my career. So you have to think I found this out 2 years ago, and then I was like, no way.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised about the number, but I've always just worked hard and just kind of. I wasn't like, I'm a female chef, he's a male chef. Like, I never put a gender in front of my career.
Sure.
Until I heard this number. And, there was a lot of big name female chefs at this event, like Lydia Bastianich and Elizabeth Faulkner and Carla Hall. And I think that's when I started really encouraging more women and really networking with that group to kind of, let's get women promotion that they deserve. Let's get, women paid. Because I've worked in restaurants where I'd never thought about that before. I remember working in one restaurant in particular, and I had more experience than this one guy. I worked at the restaurant a lot longer. I remember he had less than 2 years experience. He worked one station. I worked all of them. And he was making 17 and I made 13.
Yeah. Big disparity.
So, yeah. I remember being like, why is he getting paid so much money? Like, he just started cooking and I've been doing this for a while. Why is he getting paid 17 and I'm getting paid 13? Like, what's happening here? Or another time I had, there was this promotion up at this one job, and I didn't want whatever the position was, but I remember they told me, it was like, we know you have more experience than he does. And I think at that moment I was like, okay. So it's kind of becoming a gender thing.
It's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, and then when I went to this conference and there was like a video made and we were talking about it, I realized it was happening to other women in their career and women who are really well known. Like, Lydia told a story when she opened her first restaurant for Lydia in the city. Like, it's been there for like 20-something years now. But the bank told her, make sure you take your husband with you. Like, she couldn't take out the loan. Her husband took out the loan. Now Lydia is like, a household name. She's on TV. She owns several restaurants. She's so well respected in our career that I remember hearing her story, and you would never think that someone like Lydia got denied a loan. Now she owns restaurants like Italy and, like Del Posto and all these restaurants, and she has such a great career, and so many women look up to her. Like, I didn't know she had this stumbling block opening up her first restaurant.
Yeah. So this now matters to you so much, and we're going to get into the how of how this all happened. But tell me why. Let's take a little sidebar here. Why? Why did this become important to you? Why are you using your platform as a skilled cook, as an executive chef? Why are you now branching out to address some of these issues? Like, what is it that's driving you?
I think that early on in my career, I didn't know what I know now, and I didn't, like, I look back, I'm like, oh, that happened to me. Okay, that's happened. And I think that in this 7% of women, what people don't really know in this 7% is, like, you have people like Nancy Silvington out in California who has a Michelin star restaurant and won a James Beard Award, and you also have people like Dominique Creme, who's one of the first female chefs ever to run a 3 Michelin star restaurant. I mean, like, so there's some big, heavy hitters in this 7%. So I don't ever want people to look at the 7% and be like, well, men are better. It's like, okay, let's fight for this a little bit. And I think that, it's not like us women, we all, like, I've done events with them, and we all work so well together, and we build each other up. Like, I love working with Chef Elizabeth Faulkner, who's become like a mentor to me. She's been a James Beard nominee, owned a restaurant. She does a lot of studies with Yale, and she's just so smart, has one of the biggest hearts I know. And there's people like Elizabeth who talk to me about some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that does happen. You know, like you have people from like newspapers and magazines say to Elizabeth, where are all the female chefs? And Elizabeth looks at them and says, well, what are you, blind? Like, they're all there. And she starts like naming them. And I think we do kind of have to fight for what we want a little bit. And I think if you have a voice and you kind of, in this sense, I guess you put your money where your knife is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think as a female chef, so that's what they call us, but I honestly think that that title, female chef, is set so high that men wish they had that title.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a really interesting observation. You know, one of the things that I would love to see in this world in my lifetime is where terms like that change, right?
Absolutely.
Chef.
Yep.
That's it. Not female chef, not black chef, not white chef.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Chef. In everything. And for me, in terms of what I do with my leadership, you know, that's what this whole podcast is about. We're talking to Alison right now because I want people to hear these stories. I want another 4-year-old girl out there that's obsessed with Celine Dion and wears a do-rag all the time to go out and say, hey, shit, I can do that too.
Yeah.
You know? And so we build leaders like that. But in order for all leaders and all people to thrive, there has to be an even playing field at some point, and not a contrived even playing field where we're saying, okay, we'll just make the playing field even. No, it just has to be even.
Yeah.
We have to just get to, and it's just going to take time. But for me, I love when there's more people to play with in the sand. You know,
Absolutely.
I want that competition. It makes me better. I never want the competition to stop. I never want the rejections to stop.
Of course.
Because for every 3 successes, I get 1 rejection that makes me so angry that I forget about the 3 successes, and I want to make myself even better than those 3 successes. And we make each other build better, and we build each other, and there's just a better product out there, whether it's your service, your food, you know, what I do, what you do, it doesn't matter. It makes everybody better, and it makes the world a better place.
Absolutely.
You know?
So I think it's like, you know, if you look like if a female chef is being written up in a magazine and always says led by female chef, like never this is chef. So
Yeah. So we've heard the why, right? We've heard the why of why this sort of sparked something inside of you to do something. But the how is how you actually got there, and the how is the platform that we take to get to that leadership. So for you, you got out of culinary school in Italy, you started working, you work your way up, and really things started happening for you in terms of the public figure side of what you do when you started working for Bobby Flay, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so talk to me about that experience.
I loved working for Bobby. I worked for him for 3 years as a sous chef at his restaurant Gatto in the city. And I loved working for him, and I think I learned to make it personal because he knows all his employees' names. He actually puts an apron on. He works at his restaurants. He'll talk to you. He knows the food better than anybody else at his restaurants, and it's very personable to him. You know, like the food, he always says it's the most important. So I think that's definitely something that I've learned from working with him. And he's so nice and has such a big heart, and I had such a great experience. And, you know, I did leave, and I did my first show. It was called Beat Bobby Flay.
Yeah.
I didn't beat him, but it's okay. I was just so excited to be there.
So you leave Bobby's restaurant, and this is when things start happening. You know, you're still doing your thing. You're out there being a chef, being a cook at whatever restaurant you're at. But now TV comes into play, and we've all seen the media frenzy in the last 10, 15 years that's happened with bringing food to television.
Oh, yeah.
It's so entertaining to me.
I'm very entertaining.
Yeah, you are entertaining. But I watch the Food Network at home. I watch it with my kids. My kids love it. It just, food speaks to people in so many different ways. So it's a great medium to use for entertainment on television.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But this sort of started springboarding not only your career as a chef, but your place as a leader. We talked about what you've done in terms of television before. I'll just reiterate, but we had Beat Bobby Flay, we had Chopped, we had Fios's Restaurant Hunters, Newsday Feed Me TV. You have quite a few other things in the works that people have to stay tuned for details on that stuff. But talk to me about the whirlwind of that whole process.
Yeah, so actually, I left working for Bobby, and then I got on like Chopped like a month after. And then one day I got this phone call, and it was like, "Hi, this is so and so from Beat Bobby Flay," and I was like, "You have the wrong phone number." And then she's like, "Well, I got your got your name from one of his personal assistants. She said you would be great on the show." And I remember being like, like I pulled the phone away for a second. She was like, "Do you want to do the show?" And I was like, "Hold on, yeah, I do. Count me in."
Yeah.
So I think what a lot of people don't know is, I've always dreamt of being on TV, but I shot both shows legit in the same week.
Oh, wow.
So I was like TV'd out for a week. Like there's only so much TV I could do. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's a
I
whole
wanna
process, those shows.
Yeah.
I'll let everybody in on a little secret. I was like this close to being on Chopped myself. They were
Oh, yeah, you told me.
Yeah, so they were doing a charity episode of Chopped. So it was professionals that were involved with nonprofits or whatever. And of course, I co-founded a nonprofit years ago, and I do a lot of charitable work with the Ronald McDonald House and a few other organizations. And so I sort of sent an application in on a whim. I love cooking. I barely have time for it anymore. I would say 5 years ago, I was really much more into it, but now it's tough. My wife does all the cooking at home. But I found it interesting, and I was like, hey, if I can go on there and win some money for charity and grow the brand, cool. That was a whole thing because I had to speak with a casting person that was working with me for like 2 weeks, and we shot a promo thing. We did a Skype interview.
Oh, yeah,
it was it was a whole thing. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I didn't get it. And by the way, I think I didn't get it because I was being honest. Because I said, if you put me in a regular episode, I could probably pull it off until the dessert round. And I'm not a baker, and I'm like, and I said to them, I'm not looking to get embarrassed. So if you're putting me on there and give me like some crazy shit in the dessert round, I will make a fool of myself, and I don't want that. And so I think that's why.
Yeah. You should have just said yes and figure it out.
Yeah,
when
but
you
I
got
didn't
there.
want to get embarrassed. So I'm kind of,
Yeah, no.
I was happy that
I feel
didn't
like
get
there's
chosen.
always people who will do it worse than you.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is.
But it is a process. Actually, the only show I have ever applied for was Chopped. And then like somebody once told me, let's do one show and they'll call you back to do all the shows. So
Yeah.
I did Beat Bobby Flay. And like for me, going on a show, it's not always about winning. I feel like winning's like that cherry on top of the sundae. I'm just so excited to be there. And, I'm sure somebody's watched me on TV, but I always say something. People say, that was so funny.
No, you're definitely entertaining. It's something that I see when I see you on TV. It's something that during the process of you becoming a TEDx speaker at TEDxFarmingdale that we saw your personality come out. So, in leadership, and I'm sure this is something that you've already sort of realized because I see who you are here on the podcast, speaking on a stage. You're always the same person. And it's the big secret to leadership, to sales, to speaking on stage, to doing anything, is that if you can be your authentic self
Oh, yeah.
in your real life and in your professional life, then you got it.
Yeah, I am myself all the time. Sometimes people might be like a little embarrassed about things I say because they're fine.
Right.
Like I did the speech at Athena, and like, here I am giving like a speech, like say yes, and then the whole crowd's hysterical.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but as long as you get the message that I was saying, that's all that matters.
You do, and you have to engage people. So, and I think you sort of built that tool a little bit when you got on TV in a few respects. But it's interesting because now you have this tool, right? You have this platform of, you're out there as a chef. So this is growing the opportunities for you, of course, being on TV. But at the same time, you've now become cognizant of there's other shit going on out there. There's, women in the culinary world. There's food waste, right? All these issues that you've taken up on. Once you kind of became aware, because in the beginning it's just about cooking, but then as you grow, as you mature a little bit, you get older, you start getting your experience, other things come into play. So my question is, once you kind of made that realization, was your goal still just to keep cooking, or were you like, I'm going to turn this narrative upside down? Like, I want to shake shit up.
I love shaking shit up. I feel like that could be my first cookbook. Shake shit up.
I'm writing that down.
Shake shit up.
I'm going to trademark that.
Thank you. I mean, a little bit of both. You know, to me, I love getting in the kitchen. I love cooking something, and it's a mix of both because I'm never gonna like stop cooking, and it's never not gonna be about the food. I feel like all the topics I cover, all the things I do, are relatable to food. Like when we talk about food waste and hunger, that has to do with food. Or you know, I give like a keynote message. I'm all about saying yes. I feel like that's still in the content of what I do on a daily basis.
Right.
So.
Right. Interesting question for you. So now, you know, you've established yourself after all these years, and you've had some really interesting projects in the kitchen. What is the culture like in Alison Fasano's kitchen?
Oh, my personal one that I usually run.
So there's going to be two questions here. I'm going to follow it up with what is your kitchen like at home, but this one is your professional kitchen, the one you run at a restaurant.
It's usually, I like to create a really fun, relaxed environment because, like, if you don't know restaurants, a lot of times we work a lot of long hours. So we like to have fun. I like to make people laugh a lot and we joke around, but also at the same time, you get the job done. I feel like also when you give people a fun place to work, they want to work for you. And two, everyone wants to do better and everybody wants to learn how to do something. And actually, I don't ever yell. Like, the way I'm talking to you right now is the way I talk all the time. And I also just, like, sometimes you have to turn a liability into an asset. Like, something happened to the restaurant, and I'm like, okay, here's how we're going to fix this.
Yeah.
And I'm all for helping everybody out. Because I think, you know, of course, somebody's going to burn something's going to happen. You know, somebody's going to run out of something. I think it's all about, like, you know, it's okay. Like, we could fix this.
Right.
You know, so I create kind of this dynamic, like, friendly, you know, place for the people that I work with, you know, because I want them to look forward to coming into work because, you know, I worked in places where I'm like, oh, I don't want to mess up today. Or, you know, I would think all these things before I got to work, like I can't talk or like it was such a serious environment. I worked in a lot of restaurants where like, it was really serious, like let's not tell jokes, no smiling. So I was just like, this is not what I want to do. Like, this is not like what food's about to me. Like, I remember watching Rachel and she's smiling, and that's what I always remember. You know, like this smile for no reason, or make people have fun at work. And I feel like that's what, when you give someone that type of environment, no matter where you work, they want to work for you. They're like, it's fun. It's not like an uptight place. And, you know, I've been there and I've worked at places where like I really am not looking forward to going to work. And I feel like when you are in that, you know, mental state, like I don't look forward to going to work, I feel like we have a problem. Like you should leave that job.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like a lot of people are afraid to leave their job. But I'm like, if you don't look forward to going to work, if you hate your job or you know, like there's other places out there for you. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy because there's really an epidemic in this industry amongst cooks and chefs and kitchen staff. It's a tough environment.
Yeah.
I do, you know, my company is a consulting firm, and we do a fair amount of consulting in the restaurant industry. And a lot of times we'll deal with operations consulting, you know, with how to get the staff running in a more efficient way, you know, which you have to look at a lot of things, whether it's the kitchen staff, the front of the house, the back of the house. You know, and you have to look at a lot of things. You have to look at the culture in the restaurant. You have to look at, you know, make it a goal-driven strategy where you get people to come to work because they want to go to work and succeed, right? And so amongst restaurateurs, number one, it's become a very tough industry. It's tough to keep a restaurant open nowadays.
Yes. And also there's a lot of things that go into restaurants. I think last year or so people are coming out more and talking about mental health in a restaurant, which is really important, whether somebody has an alcohol or a drug problem or whatever it is. It's really important topic to talk about. I'm happy to say I've never had a problem. I'm also like a really boring person. Like people like, let's go out after work. And I was always that one that always went home.
Yeah.
You know, like I've never wanted to show up to work hungover or anything like that. So I'm happy to say that I've never had a problem. So I feel like people coming out and talking about their mental health problems, whether they're alcohol or whatever their choices, it's an important topic to talk about. because you're not the only person in this, career or business that has that problem.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we've seen in the last couple of years, like when one person comes out and says something and you're like, there's like a whole,
Well, they lead
parade
the
behind
pack.
them. Of course. And it's important. And I think that it's a very important topic because like restaurant business is the only, I would say, profession where people like you work 60 plus hours a week. You might work a 15-hour shift. And then like half the time I worked in restaurants and I leave, I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry. I didn't eat all day. And people are like, how is that possible? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, we eat like maybe a small family meal and we're eating standing up and doing other stuff.
Yeah.
So we don't really not like we're eating. And, I drink gallons of water when I'm working in restaurants. And, you don't have an opportunity to take a break a lot of the times, or, it's hard getting a day off, or, when you work 6 days, 12-hour shifts, I mean, that's hard.
Right.
And then some people choose to go out after work and, it turns into a problem. I've worked with people who I don't think they went home that night, and they showed up to work the next day. And
Right.
you kind of see it's a problem. And I think when there are a lot of restaurants now that are there like as your support system,
Yeah.
whether you have a open door policy at HR, or, if you're a leader or the owner or the executive chef, like you come up with ways to support your staff in a brighter direction. Like some people like, oh, let's all go bowling. So you like almost build a family in your restaurant where people don't need to go to whatever their drug of choice or go out drinking or do all this craziness because we hope for the better of our staff.
Yeah.
I also think being a leader or a chef or a mentor, whatever you want to call it, I think you have to be that example. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I think years ago, chefs were seen as like this rock star lifestyle. Like we're going to work a 12-hour shift and we're going to stay up, so at 6 a.m. and show up to work and work breakfast. Like, I think that culture has changed a lot. Because I think if anybody's familiar with Anthony Bourdain, who, has such great books, he had a book called Kitchen Confidential, which I read when I was in culinary school, and it talks about that scene and it almost paints that picture, which that culture, it's not really what it is anymore in restaurants, so not every restaurant's the same. And, so I think as a leader, you definitely have to be there for your staff, and give them like a safe working environment and be there for them.
Yeah. I think you made some amazing points there. I want to speak on this for a minute and then sort of get a piece of advice from you on it. But you talked about a lot of stuff. And the one thing that stuck out was when you mentioned HR and HR policies, right? And so what's interesting is that we sometimes don't see as the customers going into a restaurant what is actually going on behind the scenes. And what I mean is that, hey, if I go to like XYZ Italian restaurant, it could be XYZ Italian restaurant owned by John Smith, or it could be XYZ Italian restaurant owned by blah, blah, blah restaurant group that owns 17 other restaurants, and there's an HR department. But the one that's owned by John Smith and it's this one place and they're struggling to stay open, there is no HR. There's nobody.
That's right.
What you have is whether it's the chef restaurateur or just the restaurateur that owns the place and there's a separate chef there, you have an ownership that's stressed because it's a tough industry to maintain. Sure. You have a staff that is now running in a stressed environment as opposed to an environment that they can thrive in, and it sort of goes down the line. Now, you also mentioned that rock star lifestyle. It's a thing, and whether the industry is changing or not, you'd be better to tell us than I would. But, setting those precedents in terms of ownership, because it has to start there, in terms of ownership of building in a healthy lifestyle and a healthy culture within a restaurant, making sure that there are limits maybe to how many hours somebody can work. And, it's tough when you're going in at 4 p.m. and you're getting done at 2 a.m. every single day. And so the people that own these restaurants, they need to be cognizant of that, whether you're a big restaurant group or an individual owner, that you have to start at the top by creating that culture. And then subsequently, when you're running a kitchen, that culture within the kitchen is going to dictate how those people feel. And so building that positive culture, that fun culture, it's amazing. But when I talk about an epidemic of mental health in the industry, and you see people like Anthony Bourdain, and it's so sad to see what has gone on in the industry, and something has to change. So if you could give one bit of advice right now to the industry as a whole, what is it?
To listen. Listen to your staff. Listen to, give everybody like a platform to speak. Like, don't shut people down. I think as a leader, if somebody comes up to you and says, I have a problem, or I need help, or you see it, I think sometimes the best medicine is just to listen to somebody. Like, give them a few minutes. Yeah. I think in our day, people always want to say, my day's so busy. I always feel like you have 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to spare to give somebody, because that 5 minutes could change somebody's life.
Yeah. I love that advice, and I'll get a little serious here in responding to it. Entrepreneurs out there, whether you're running a restaurant, running another kind of business, if you are not listening, you are not a leader, and you are fucking up big time. And when you look at what has happened in industries like the restaurant industry, you have to realize how serious that is. That could cost somebody their lives. And that's no joke. That could cost somebody their lives when you build a culture of just, it's me, it's my way, I'm not going to listen to you. And then come to find out 3 years later that this culture is so disgustingly horrible in your place of business, to the point where somebody may take their life because this is their world now. They're living in this negativity. Mm. So it's on the entrepreneurs, it's on the restaurant owners to step up and fix this. So I think that's great advice. Let's get a little lighter now that we've depressed everybody out there in podcast land.
Well, they're listening to us, George. That's all that matters.
That's true.
They're giving us their time.
Yes, they are. Tell me about your kitchen at home. What does your kitchen look like?
Everybody needs to get out. My mom's like, she'll hover. I don't know why she's always hovering behind me. Like, if I'm making something, it's not like she's there to learn. Like, she's like, you ever watch NASCAR? Like, they come in, the cleanup crew, or they change a tire.
Crew, yeah.
That's her.
She's your pit crew.
Yeah. But I actually like in the summertime, I like to grill a lot of stuff. Sometimes I use my garage a lot. I have a refrigerator in my garage. I don't want people to think I'm doing weird shit in my garage.
Same refrigerator. I
got you. Last year I cured salmon.
Oh.
So I got this whole fillet, beautiful side of salmon. I cured it, put it in my refrigerator overnight. Next day slice it up. I love to do big projects like that.
I love that.
During the summer I used the grill a lot. You could actually turn your grill into a smoker, which a lot of people don't know. You make little smoke bombs with wood chips, turn your grill on high, then you keep one side on, and it's you have a smoker.
Yeah.
So I smoke ribs.
I
do like to bake a lot, but you know what I think would be something that would surprise a lot of people? It's I eat healthy a lot, which is surprised a lot of people. Every day I have a green drink, usually it's an all natural green drink, MCT oil. That's how I start my day.
Okay.
So I do a lot of I like to be one of those fit chefs.
Yeah, there you go.
When you spoke to me on the phone, I was in the Planet Fitness part.
There you go.
I just want people to know I didn't get this athlete's figure by
I thought you were
around.
lying.
Thank you. I really was in the Planet Fitness parking lot, but I actually love eating salads. I love eating greens. I love eating those grains, and I do love eating healthy. And I feel in the last year or so, I always go for the healthier thing on the menu. I want this grilled chicken or something like that. So I think that would surprise a lot of people. But do I still go out and have a steak and want a piece of fried chicken? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everything's in moderation. I also just love food that is very clean and makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So everyone jokes around that eat salad all the time. I legit love eating salad. It's not like I do it for a healthy reason. I crave vinegar, which is really weird. So sometimes I love a nice house salad with oil and balsamic.
The new thing, by the way. Vinegar is supposed to be amazingly good for you now, especially apple cider vinegar. But
apple cider vinegar. Also, side note: if you're drinking apple cider vinegar, do you know you have to mix it with water because it'll eat away your what is that called?
Anatomy. Yeah.
Whatever.
I knew that. Or you're enameling your teeth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a dentist. I don't know these big words. Just work with me. So I do like eating salads and stuff like that. I like food that makes you feel good on the inside, and it does.
Yeah. Speaking, look at that. So you're dropping knowledge bombs on us.
Yeah. So MCT oil, green drink, salads.
We're going to school with Chef Allison here. We're going to school. Speaking of knowledge bombs, your career has taken you into an interesting space. You have, as of the last couple of years, you've gotten on the big stages. You are slowly and steadily becoming a force in the speaking world.
I know. I also love a platform to speak because, like, majority of the time if I'm talking to somebody, it's about food. So I'm talking about food in restaurants. That's what we're talking about. But I honestly have a lot of things to say. Like, I like to read books a lot. And when I say read books a lot, I mean I flip through the pages. But I love watching, like, documentaries, and I think a lot. I'm one of those people, like, you ever see those memes where it's like I'm laying in bed and I think, like, where's my birth certificate, like, type of things. Like, I lay in bed, I think about random stuff, and I'm like, I wonder where I put that. I got that when I was 9. So, like, I think, like, I just love thinking about stuff and how, I could be better. And, like, whatever I'm thinking about, I just like to share it because I feel like, here I am. I never went to a university. I got kicked out of high school, my first one. I did graduate on time. But I feel like I always felt like I was relatable and people like talking to me. And, well, I think people do. You do. So
I like talking to you, for sure. And I think the listeners are enjoying this as well.
So I think also, like, you have somebody who's not fully where they want to be. Like, I always say the best is yet to come. Well, Celine Dion said that. Now I say it too because Celine knows best. So I feel like the best is yet to come in your career. And I feel like being, like 29 and there's so much more ahead of me, and just, like, getting a chance to talk about my journey and what I believe in and talk about these real topics that maybe could help shape someone's life, or maybe if you just say one sentence that could change somebody's, the way they think, the way they act, or they want to become better, because I was forever inspired by somebody I've never met, Rachel Ray. I did end up meeting her, but, for somebody on the TV screen to make me say, I want to be her, like, I feel like we go through our lives on a daily basis and we never go home at night and say, I wonder if I inspired somebody today. I feel like those are not questions we've ever asked. Like, do you ever ask yourself that? Like, did I inspire somebody today?
Yeah, well, as of late, because I'll tell you, you're coming into an interesting place right now, and you have such a head start, honestly, because you've been doing this for a number of years now, and you're in such a great place in terms of leadership, right, at 29. Me at 29, I'm 40 right now, just turned 42 months ago, and it was really emotional for me turning 40 because I look back at the last 10 years of my life and I'm like, shit, man, I did some real good in this decade, because I started 30 as a horrible human being. Started as a person that I just had, looking back, I just have no respect for that person that I was. And I've talked about this on the show a number of times, but it was in a totally different industry, only concerned about making money and bonuses and my success and my wealth and all that kind of bullshit that doesn't really matter in life. And it cost me everything. It cost me a marriage, cost me, I have 2 kids from my first marriage, and left me in this place where I was just like, what the fuck happened? Like, where did I go wrong? And I sort of became introspective and looked back and I go, I'm not the person I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm not the person that I used to be. I don't even recognize this person looking in the mirror. And it was all just actions. It wasn't any kind of like drug related stuff, nothing like that. It was just like ego and just becoming this guy that wasn't out to be of service to others. And so I made this active choice to change. I made this active choice to turn everything around and to start. And I started with just focusing on my family and building from there. And then it turned into focusing on my interpersonal relationships. It turned into focusing on my career. And then once the career took off, it turned into how can I help people with this career, with this business I've started. And so it's taken me to these really, really fun places. I'll tell you that I didn't have some of the abilities in my 20s that I had in my 30s, because you become more mature in your 30s. You certain things matter more than they used to. Certain other things matter less than they used to. And so I feel like you're coming into this place right now in your 30s where you are just going to really do some really good shit, because this is the time where, you're young enough to really grind it out, right? And really get out there and just do all you can. You're smart enough now in your 30s where some of that old immaturity just goes away, and you're smart enough to just make the right decisions. You're experienced enough to know which of those decisions is right and which decisions are wrong. So I'm so excited for you going into this decade now, because it's it's really an incredible time, especially when you're at the position that you're at right now, to be able to do some really cool stuff. And I can't wait to watch you along this journey as you do these cool things.
We'll probably do several more things together,
We
George.
absolutely will. And we talked about this. The tribe builds every
Yeah, it
day.
does.
The tribe builds. If you are not out there as a leader, willing to help other people in order to help them later on, or for them to help you later on, that's what the tribe is all about. And so I guarantee we'll do some stuff together coming up. We have done some stuff already. We talked about Alison's speaking career. Alison took the TEDx stage for the first time on September 7th, an event that I executive produced, TEDxFarmingdale. Such a special event to me because at the time I was a 2-time TEDx speaker already, and I decided to bring TED to my hometown of Farmingdale, a place that I care so much about. And I had lofty goals for that event. I wanted that event to be super special. I wanted the right people to be there that were there for the right reasons. That was the most important to me. I didn't want somebody that just wanted to put TED on their resume. I wanted somebody that had something to say that mattered. And you gave a talk called Food at Everyone's Table, which talked about a really unique take on food waste. And I was so proud of what you did afterwards, especially for your first TED Talk. You killed it. It was really, really good. I want to hear from you what that experience was like and what it's turned into since.
I mean, doing the TED Talk was actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, because you have to memorize the whole speech. I was like, I didn't know that. Do you remember we talked on the phone? I was like, I didn't know. I thought I was going to read off the paper. And so I feel like it was like a lot of work, but at the end, I feel like when everybody claps and it's over, that's like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So it was so much fun to do. And, I never did any public speaking before.
Yeah.
I mean, who would hire me to do public speaking? Only George would. So I think when you have a topic and it's like a purpose and you know about it, and you could talk about it, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
So, my speech was on food waste and how we can end hunger, which actually food waste and hunger go hand in hand, because why are we wasting when there's so many people that are hungry? All the food that we throw out every year, whether it's in our homes or in our restaurants, those are food that we could be feeding people. Yeah. And I think the food waste actually takes place the most in people's homes, which you actually think about it. People throw a lot of food away every single year.
Yeah.
So it's just figuring out ways, what can we do about this so-called waste? We could use it as compost. You could donate it, find local, charities, whether you donating by your time or your money. It's always important to, help. And I also feel like it's not a restaurant problem. It's kind of like a world problem, hunger and food waste. So I feel like you don't have to be a chef to go out and feed people. You could do that, help feed your neighbor down the block. I feel like this is kind of a problem where everyone could almost pitch in.
Yeah.
There's so many food banks out there. There's so many events throughout the whole year, whether it's, Food Network and does a event in New York City that helps No Kid Hungry, or, you have City Harvest, and so you have these events every year that, the money goes to help charities and, give back.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a chef to feed people.
Yeah. And it was really impactful when we were editing the videos afterwards to submit to TED for them to put on their YouTube channel. And by the way, we'll have this in the show notes, the link to this talk. I remember watching it back and just being really proud of what you put out there. And just seeing a developing leader to me is so much fun. Seeing what kind of things you're becoming passionate about besides food. So I commend you on that. But I want to hear, how has your life changed after the TEDx talk? Has it had any effect on you professionally?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have reached out, because I think people who know me, it was a surprise to them that I was doing this public speaking on such a big platform. So I think you're never too old or young to do something new. And I think that was something new for me. And I think a lot of people were impressed by it, especially me being a keynote speaker. I mean, that was comical to a lot of people. Also, I think I had to learn how to speak differently. I remember Jen called me up and she was just like, your problem is you talk really fast and you don't enunciate your words. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
I got it. And then, we were talking about this earlier. She's like my Amy Poehler in Mean Girls. I'm a cool mom. She knows all the dance moves behind you. That's Jen. So I think I learned how to. You do have to talk differently on a big stage. And I come from Brooklyn. We talk about with our hands, and we move around a lot, and I mispronounce words, and that's just, I was like, okay, enunciate your words.
There you go.
You know,
Look
that's
at
what I trained myself to do, is enunciate some words. But I think a lot of people took notice, and I got a lot of great reviews and feedback, and some people were so proud of me. And I think we were really excited when Bobby Flay posted our video.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh,
that was
awesome.
pretty awesome.
That was so cool.
So,
and I saw the pride in that post, which was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Shows me what kind of person you are. Because even him professionally, I don't know the man personally, but when you kind of see him professionally, he really gives off a super authentic vibe.
Yeah, he is. That's how he is all the time.
That's how he is, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so it was this just proud, almost like a proud papa moment where
Yeah.
you're kind of like, oh, wow, that's, you know.
Yeah, and also to talk about, because I'm not the only chef that talks about food waste and hunger. You know, you have people like Jose Andres or, you know, Massimo Botoro, who, you know, take such pride in like education and like teaching people like what we could do about our food waste. We need to feed people, you know, like, and there's throughout the whole year, there's events where chefs, you know, do an event, money goes to charity. So, you know, I'm not the only person that's talking about this. I just decided to take that stage to educate people who wouldn't normally know about the crisis or what to do with food waste. You know, like give them a different idea what to do. Because I think somebody said to me, you know, I went home at night and I looked in my refrigerator and I just cried. And they told me that I think one of the things I said was do like a shared meal. And people are like, I do a shared meal all the time. And I think it just, you know, changed the way some people think. And I feel like if I could just do that, like you were just saying how you could just change one person's life,
Yep.
that what makes a difference. And I think me getting that platform, because I think if you're given a platform, let's educate people, let's inspire somebody, let's use this platform as a purpose. And my purpose was like educating people on what to do with the waste. How can we handle it? Here's a story about two chefs that really stepped up to plate. You know, I just wanted to do the journey. And I think a lot of people don't realize hunger could face, it could be anybody.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, so I think it was important for people to know this, because it's one of those topics that we all could relate to. You know, like whether you waste a lot of food in your homes, or whether, you know somebody that suffers from hunger, or, you know, it's like a topic that everyone could be involved in.
Yeah.
You know, everyone could put their hand on the plate, and it's definitely a world problem.
Yeah, for sure.
know?
For sure. And that's really what the goal was here. The theme of TEDxFarmingdale was fixing the world. 2019's theme was fixing the world. And it was a big topic to tackle, and you did a great job. And what TEDx Talks do for people like yourself and people that are out there trying to build their following is it really legitimizes what you do. I really take to heart the importance of the TEDx stage, the mission of TED and what they're trying to do with these talks. As a representative, as an independent representative hosting my own event, I want to make sure that I'm sticking to that mission, and I'm making sure that these talks are as pure as possible. So you did a phenomenal job. Now that's led to quite a few other opportunities. Most recently, you actually keynoted the 2020 Athena Long Island Leadership Awards.
Yes.
Which was awesome. So we have a mutual friend, my colleague, Jen Muccioli, does a lot of the work for putting this together. It's an incredible event that honors, there's a leadership award, and then there's a youth,
Yes.
I forget what it's, a young
leadership.
leadership award. Yeah, don't quote me on the names, but and we'll actually put links to this on the show notes if they have the pictures and any videos available for this. But you were asked to keynote this event, and even though I wasn't there, but I should have been. Jen, damn it.
Side note.
I'm throwing you side eye right now. I heard you did a phenomenal job, and not only did you do a phenomenal job, but you engaged every single person in that room, which is not an easy task because I know who's in that room. I know the names in that room. That's a big. You're talking about Long Island in New York. Some of the biggest female leaders out there
it's true.
are in that room.
Like when they started announcing like who would be like nominated, who was nominated for award. I remember the lady who actually won. She was like the president of Adelphi.
Christine Reardon. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And then they were talking about like her like university and like she has a PhD, and I was clapping. I was like, she's the smartest person in the room
Yeah.
right now, you know. And then she had this like outfit on, and we were talking for a bit. I was like, whatever that outfit is, I need that. Like she had an outfit on, like you knew she was somebody special. Like
Yeah.
she had this. She was like, it's just a coat, and I was like, I need that. I was like, I wore the same shirt to everything I did because I didn't have anything else to wear. And then I was like, I want to watch Jeopardy with you because I feel like she would know all the answers.
Yeah.
That's what I told her. And she was like, I don't know if I'd be good at Jeopardy. I'm like, well, it's a date. We're watching Jeopardy. But I feel like that was like a big room with like a lot of people. I remember thinking like somebody didn't think this through. Like, why am I the keynote speaker? Like all these people are coming in. And I was just like, this is like really big VIPs, women who are on top of the game. And then I know for me, like, I met up with Jen, and she was like, well, what do you want to talk about? Like, what's your theme in the speech? And for some reason to me, I just said, I wanted to be saying yes. Saying yes to opportunities, putting yourself out there. I'll talk a little bit about myself. And that was my topic, and people clap. And I feel like it reached everybody. And been, like when I was done with my speech, people came up to me and wanted to take my photo. They thought I was really cool. And our friend there was there. A TEDx speaker was there. Remember, you were a little jelly.
Yes, very jelly.
Yeah.
Man, I wanted to be there next year, maybe next year, but you know, we'll see if I even want to come next year. We'll see.
Okay, now you're gonna deny Jen's.
Well, look,
invite.
I'm a busy guy. I'm a very important person. I'm a busy guy.
Busy. We're gonna set up a podcast next year on that day. You can't come.
Yeah, exactly. My podcast is going to be the same day as the theme of next year. I want to talk about a specific moment there. So there was actually a very special guest there. Carol Silva, legendary veteran news anchor from News 12 Long Island, who was our guest in the weeks prior to the Athena Awards. She had an amazing episode that we wound up turning into a two-part episode. It's episode 105 and 106. So go back and check this out, guys, on Apple Podcasts and everywhere podcasts are available. Two-parter entitled A Christmas Carol.
And that's a cute name, George.
I do good names. I do good names. That's what I'm about. I'm the namer. I'm the namer. And so Carol's episode was so incredible, and we had our guest co-host that day was Jen Muccioli, and Jen and Carol exchanged info. Jen invited Carol to the Athena Awards, which she definitely deserved to be at. Mm-hmm. And from what I heard was when you finished your speech, she was so moved, she stood up and walked over to you and gave you a big hug.
Yes, she did.
Tell me about that moment.
So, like, I was walking up the stage, and Carol gets right off her seat and, like, runs up and gave me a hug. And I was just like, this is the sweetest moment, Carol. Like, she's like a, TV legend and so sweet, so nice. And, of course, she was gorgeous. Yeah. She's so pretty. And her just give me a hug. And, like, I feel like sometimes, like, I remember giving the speech. I was like, I hope it, like, I didn't know what was going to move people or what people were going to think. I was just like, let me go out there, tell my speech. A few people laughed, and it was just like a great time. And Carol running up and giving me a hug was fantastic.
Yeah. Let me ask you, do you have a new respect for women in leadership after keynoting that conference?
Oh, yeah. Because, I think women do this thing where, like, we're going to stick together. Like, no matter what your profession is, like, you go, girl, you know? And so I think I was like, let's do another speech. Like, I looked at Jen. I was like, we're taking this on tour. Coming to a college campus near you.
And you pretty much are. We're
going on tour.
I love it. We talked about this before. You're turning 30 at the end of the month.
Yeah, the 27th.
What's next for Allison?
I think a lot of big stuff. You always have big stuff in the works. People always like, what are you doing next? And I'm like, doing this, doing a TV show and, like NBD.
No big deal.
But turning like 30 is not, to me, it's just like turning another birthday. I do have tickets to go see Celine Dion, March 3rd, Nassau Coliseum. So if anybody's watching or listening, if you could get me a meet and greet, that would be great. I do have 12th row if you could get me closer too.
Or if Celine's listening, please beef up the security.
Okay. Pretty accurate. So yeah, that's one time I had a birthday party. I remember 2 people came. I was one of them, and we went bowling.
My 40th birthday party was bowling.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Oh, we had a great time.
I feel like bowling, you ever do something and you don't realize how fun it is till you do it and you say this, like, we need to do this more often. I feel like bowling's that thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Bowling's that one thing where you're like, I got to do this more often.
Yeah.
You
In
know?
fact, I had to entertain like 40 people that were there because I walked in for the surprise. My wonderful wife threw the party for me. It was this bowling alley bar place. And I had to like see people I haven't seen in a while and entertain and, you know, make conversation. I'm like, I just want to fucking bowl. I
Yeah,
just
you're
wanna
like,
go
all right,
bowl."
everybody to the lanes.
I couldn't even put bowling shoes on. I wound up bowling in my regular shoes.
You probably bowled twice. You're
Yeah.
like, all right, everybody to your lanes.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Stay in
happened.
your lane.
Yeah. This is awesome. I want to real quick touch on spark leadership moments and balance. So we've talked about quite a number of these spark moments that you've had in your life, and really I want people to understand with these moments that you don't necessarily realize when you're in the moment, when you're having a pivotal moment, but you should definitely be observant and be ready for those spark moments, because sometimes as long as you kind of take note of, hey, this happened today, it could be 10 years down the line that you look back and you go, shit, you know, that taught me something, or that was a really big moment of change in my life. So it was lovely to hear about all these moments in your life that sort of led you down this path of leadership. But we can't have leadership without balance. At least that's my theory. For me, you know, I went on this big journey in my life, and when everything finally started falling into place, I started finally realizing who the authentic George was. Balancing those different areas of my life, balancing the father, the husband, the business owner, the public speaker, everything I do, balancing the community leader, and sort of turning that all into one life, balancing everything and making sure it's all a part of your life, but none of it is, more important than another, except of course the stuff at home, the family stuff. What does balance mean to you?
I mean, I always think that it's important to find time for stuff, whether it's like going out with your friends or, you know, doing like an event or like a podcast or a TV show. I feel like if you really want to do something, or if you are really passionate about something, you find time to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like it's always important for me to catch up with my friend. Like there's my friend Rachel. We like meet up every week and chat and go out. I feel like me making time for her, it's like most important. Like let's go out and chat and we build each other up. So I feel like there's always time. Like when people say there's not enough time, I'm like, there is. You have to make time. Or when you send somebody like a message, or like you're telling me you didn't see that message for 12 hours.
Right.
I mean, you saw it. I mean, so for me, no matter how busy I am, I always pick up my phone when somebody calls me, or a text message, or if I miss your phone call, I literally call you back right away. So I feel like we all have time. It's like, I feel like there's no excuse for not having time. You know, you should always answer your phone when somebody calls you, or reply back. And,
Yep.
you know, there's always time. So make time for people.
I love that. Do you have balance right now?
Yeah, my life is always. Also, you know what really helps me? It's really bizarre. Is I'm a really relaxed person all the time.
You are. You're pretty relaxed. You're almost like on the borderline of comatose and awake.
That's accurate. Like right now,
You're like,
I am
I threw her off, guys.
I'm actually always relaxed. And people say, "Are you always like this?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like I'm just very. I'm like, whatever's happening, it's fine.
You do. I get a very
Fix
good
it.
vibe from you.
I'm always very calm.
That's good.
But I wasn't like always like that. Like I remember like starting out working in restaurants. I was like always like nervous Nelly. Like I didn't want to do anything. I would like panic inside. I think I just learned everything's will be okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm very calm. And also like I think it's about knowing yourself.
Sure.
So I noticed like if I, let's say I was working in a restaurant, I messed up on something. I'm one of those people, you know, when you have a like downfall after that, like
Yeah.
you mess up on one thing. So I realized that's...
It's like dominoes after that. Yeah.
No, it's true. So I realized that's how I was. So I used like, I just like, you know, you have to talk yourself through stuff. Like, it'll be okay. One thing at a time. I got this. So I think that's what I've learned. I'm very calm all the time.
I love it.
So if you're ever like in a situation you want to be in it with me, I'm going to be like, it's okay.
Call Allison.
This is what's happening.
Call Allison, guys. We're going to put her cell phone number in the show notes, too. Her
Yeah.
mom's number, too. Home address,
I don't
social
think
security
you
number.
okay. I don't think you might want my mom's number. I can't promise you anything.
All right. You know what time it is. Time for the big three, guys.
Uh-oh.
The big three from the Launchcast.
Big three. It is your top 3 moments for everything that I'm going to list here. You ready?
Okay.
Rapid fire. Get them off to me.
Okay,
All right,
geez.
not that rapid fire. I don't want to
Okay.
stress you. Let's go back into calm Allison mode.
Okay.
We're comatose.
We never left that space.
Ready?
Yeah.
Top 3 meals to cook.
1 pasta, like pomodoro fresco. I'm very simple. This pasta, tomato, basil, a little bit spicy. That's my favorite thing. It's so easy. It's just delicious. I also really love making bread, like focaccia or something. So bread, because I think the yeast is so like therapeutic. Like I could just like roll bread all day, score it. Bread, and also it's kind of like in the same topic of breadish, but I do love making pizza. Like dough and everything.
We make a pizza every Friday, by the way. My son is allergic to everything.
Oh.
And so Pizza Fridays, we make him his own while we all get takeout pizza. And it's fun making pizza.
It is fun making, especially if you make the dough and you stretch it out.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. So
Yeah.
basically, we stuck with everything Italian. So pasta, bread, and pizza.
Perfect.
Her.
All the healthy stuff.
Healthy.
Now let's go to the unhealthy stuff and the fun stuff. Top 3 snacks. What does Allison
Really?
snack on?
Bananas. I'm not a joke. I could eat bananas all the time. So I do eat bananas because I do tell you that I like healthy stuff.
Yep.
I'm not a big snacker, which is the problem. But I do have to say that if I have to pick, I don't do these very often, so I don't want people to think I do, but I love salt and vinegar potato chips.
Okay. You're allowed.
Thank you. And then Twix.
Okay. We got it.
So
We
if
got
I have
3.
to pick, but I eat the bananas the most, and then like maybe I'll have a potato chip. I don't actually
Okay.
go out like in my house. I don't have potato chips or candy, or I really don't.
All right.
But if I have to pick,
We're not judging.
if I'm in the mood,
Top 3 places to eat
in general,
in general.
Young Joni, Minneapolis, Minnesota. When I was there, I ate there 5 times. And actually, Ann Kim, who won the James Beard Award this year for her restaurant, she's an incredible chef. Food there is delicious. It's very elbows on the table. Minneapolis is actually my favorite food city. So Young Joni, Minneapolis. Fact, don't skimp out. You have to get the barbecue Korean pizza. It knocked my socks off the first time I ever had it. So
Man.
Young Joni's one. St. Anselm in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Everything is always perfectly cooked, perfectly seasoned. It's a small place. If they open at 5, get there at 5. Never had a bad meal there. Perfectly cooked, perfectly seasoned, delicious. Also, I have to go with another restaurant in Williamsburg, is a restaurant called Missy, which is Missy Robinson's restaurant. She is another James Beard Award-winning chef. She has 2 restaurants in Williamsburg. Missy is a gorgeous restaurant. She does pasta, and then they have gelato. So that's what she does there. It's a gorgeous restaurant. You could sit right at the kitchen counter, and don't skimp out on the gelato. The pistachio gelato will again knock my socks off.
Done. I'm
Yeah,
there.
so those are my 3 favorite restaurants.
Top 3 women in the food industry right now.
I'm gonna go with my friend Elizabeth Faulkner, who has one of the biggest hearts I know. She always wants everybody to be involved. She's always helping people out. I love working with Elizabeth. We've done the Palm Beach Food and Wine, the Pebble Beach Food and Wine as well. Also, I love Nancy Silvington, who has 3 restaurants out in LA. Again, James Beard Award-winning chef. I just love how she becomes obsessed with food. Like when she made pizza for the first time, like she just if you just add like 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and her pizza recipe is almost anti-Italian, but people always just talk about Nancy's pizza, so she becomes obsessed with food. And if you have Netflix, you have to watch Nancy's her chef table on Netflix. Also, I'm going to have to go with Dominique Creme, who has several restaurants out in California as well. She has, first female chef to have like a 3 Michelin star restaurant. Also, she announced last year she does have breast cancer, and she's battling that. Just opened up another restaurant. I mean, So she's pretty badass, and, you know, she's doing really well now that, you know, I see her on social media. I've never met her before, or Nancy, but I just really adore those two, and maybe someday I will.
Very cool. 2 more. Top 3 female heroes.
Wow. That's a big one. I would have to go with I've never even got asked this question or thought about this. Can I go with Rachel Ray? Because she's
Boom.
my hero.
Rachel Ray. I knew it was going to be on there.
Okay. Let's think about this. Julia Childs.
Hello.
Yes, Julia Childs. I feel like she really knocked that barrier down, and I think she sends a message to everybody because, like, her career started really late in life. So I feel like no matter how old you are, you're never too old to start something new. And then who else would I have to say? I feel like I've never gotten asked this question. It's so funny.
The James Beard Award for Best Question goes to me.
Oh my God, I've never thought about this question. That's very interesting.
You can give me 2. It's fine.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I'll allow it.
Okay, I can't really. I'm sure there's so many people that I could think of. Like, I'm going to leave here and be like, oh, I should have said this person.
Yeah, so 2. And this whole interview is now a failure, guys. Thank you for joining us. Complete failure.
Well, I think, you know, a hero is actually, I would have to go with, let's put Elizabeth Faulkner in this category too.
Okay.
I think Elizabeth could float in a whole bunch of different categories because I think she's the one that always, like, she's like the voice. Like, if you're at a speech and there's a mic floating around, let's just give the mic to Elizabeth. She has like really important things to say. And I love listening to her speak, and she's all for building women up, and she, you know, dealt with that whole being a female chef and get to these hard questions. I'm like, give the mic to Elizabeth. She'll answer all these questions. You know?
One more. Top 3 favorite feelings in the world.
That's such a strange question.
You're welcome.
Like feelings, like emotions? Is that what this?
Like feelings, like I don't want to give you an answer. But
okay.
Like when the rare times this happens, when I'm watching TV with my kids and I get like a head on the shoulder, like leaning in on me. That's one of my favorite feelings. Yeah.
Well, you really stumped Allison with this question. I'm like, I got nothing. I do have a dog. His name's Coco, right? And I love Coco. I'm also a really big dog person. So I'm like those people who cry when they see that Seat commercial. Yeah. It's me. So like sometimes, you know, my dog comes and he just sits right on top of me. That's my favorite. And he's also like less than 10 pounds. So because I'm like, he was also like a rescue. So I feel like in the first time in his life, he feels love. Okay. What kind of dog? He's a Chihuahua Yorkie. Oh, we have a Chihuahua. So he's really small. We have a Chihuahua Dachshund. So he's a small guy. Max. I think the feeling of finishing something, like whether it's a speech or a TV show or, you know, whatever you're doing when you're done, like, because you have all that build up, right? You're like, whether you're nervous or you're excited or you're like, oh, I hope I don't mess up. I think the feeling of finishing something. Love that. You know, like the TED Talk when everybody clapped. I know the feeling very well. Yeah. And all your hard work's over and you're like, let's eat. Or whatever you're going to do after your big moment. Like doing a TV show, walking out the door, like, I did that. Yeah. You know? Can I tell you something? The side note on that is I know that feeling very well. I love that feeling. I have sort of transformed how that feeling works on me. I don't necessarily feel it after the fact anymore. I've channeled that into the beginning now. So now no, you're at, yeah, I guess I did that. The feeling at the end is like the satisfaction, not the relief feeling. It's the satisfaction of like I did a good thing. So it's a little bit different. It's less energy, but I've channeled that nervous energy into the beginning. Like before I walked out into the TEDxFarmingdale stage to do my opening remarks, I was like jumping around like I'm a basketball player, hyping myself up for a game. Like, you know what I mean? And that's all there in the beginning. And I found that when I do that before I do something, I bring the energy into what I'm doing, which is cool. So, do we have one more? Yeah. I think getting a compliment, whether like sometimes people say like, it's not only like you look nice, so that type of compliment, but it's like someone looks at you and says, you know why I think people like you? Because you're relatable. Like those type of,
Yeah.
this is why this compliment. Because like sometimes we need somebody else to say something like that because I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Like I never thought I was relatable. I never thought that, strangers like talking to me. Like I just look, when an outside person tells you something about yourself that you never noticed before, and you're like, huh.
Does it have to be about your character, or like, are you the type of person gets offended if somebody says like, oh, you look pretty today or something like that?
I don't really, it takes a lot to offend me. I'm
Okay.
always like, okay, whatever.
Right.
That's
I gotcha.
I'm a very relaxed person. But I think it could be about anything really, like sometimes like doing the TV shows, people reach out to you who you have like never met before. And I'll get people like this week, my Chop episode re-aired and somebody's like, you're still the pasta princess. Or like for somebody to take their time out of the day to write me a message we've never met before, to write me something inspiring, I feel like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's considered in the compliments category, but I guess it is.
Sure, of course.
So.
Well, it's a compliment that they respect you enough to, thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, especially like somebody I've never met before saying like, I like that you said this, or I love that you were, yourself, or you're the pasta princess, or people like, you were so funny.
I love that too. That's one of my favorite feelings as well, for sure. Because it gives you that feeling that you did some good.
Yeah.
You helped that feeling. Man, we did it. I'm going to do this. You know what this means?
Uh-oh.
We're done. We did
We're
it.
done. And
we killed it. Great job. Thank you for being here. This was awesome.
This is so much fun. Like, I'll just come back once a week. I'll fill you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to do real quick before we wrap up. We're going to do the Spark Moment of the week. Today's Spark Moment is going to be about the concept of an idol versus a hero. Funny enough, Allison, during this interview today, discussed her love for Celine Dion, right, as sort of an idol. This unicorn in the distance that is this, iconic performer and somebody that she's idolized since she was very little. And then she spoke about Rachel Ray. And to me, that came off more like a hero versus an idol. So for me, growing up, I had a lot of idols, a lot of these people on TV that I like worshipped, and musicians and what have you. And to idolize them when you're younger, that's all well and good, and it's fine. But, when you grow up and you're sort of coming into your own and you're trying to be all these other people, for me especially, it didn't really work out too well. And it really gave me a hard time to discover who I was as a man until I sort of put my foot down and sort of said to myself that I need to realize who my heroes are versus who my idols are. And so when I started looking at these people that were actually heroes to me, people that were doing things that I thought were profound, people that were doing things that were important, and people that I wanted to model my behavior after, not necessarily my life, but my behavior, those were heroes. When we listened to Allison's interview today, Rachel Ray was a hero of hers for many reasons. Her cooking, being a woman in the culinary industry, and a personality, a public figure. And so because of that, she became a hero to Allison, and Allison took that heroism and she modeled what her career was going to be after that. And look where she's at now. And so I did the same thing, and I sort of pick and chose my heroes very carefully. And it didn't really happen until my 30s, honestly, that I did that, but better late than never. So what I want to say with this is, when we look for those spark moments in life, and not only the moments, but the people that influence us, we have to make sure that the people that are influencing us are the right model. And so knowing that difference between an idol and a hero is really, really important. When you're bringing positivity into the world, when you're bringing nothing but good into the world, and we're all human, we're not going to do all good, but when you're bringing in all this good, all this positivity in the world, and you're being a positive role model, that's somebody that can be a hero for you, right? So that's our spark moment for the day, guys. That's it, guys. Another episode of the Launchcast is in the can right now. I want to thank my guest, Chef Allison Fasano, for being here.
Thanks. Remember, I just play chef on TV, folks.
Chef, TV personality, keynote speaker, wonderful person, Brooklynite.
Yep.
Chef Allison Fasano. Thanks for being here. This was great.
Thanks so much.
You rock. Guys, follow us on social media at The Launchcast Show, at Launchpad CEO, wherever you got to find us. Check out our podcast every single Monday at 6 a.m. We come out with our new episodes, and we go live also once a week on a different day every week. What else? I got nothing else to plug. You got anything going on?
No.
That was so sad. You got anything going on? No.
Well, I'm one of those people, I think about it afterwards. You have to just, follow us on the social platforms.
Yeah.
We like to keep the peoples up to date.
We're going to put all of those links on the show notes. Allison's got some cool stuff happening. So as stuff happens, we'll also update on all of our guests' happenings on our social media as well. But definitely follow her career. She's doing some incredible stuff. Guys, we'll see you later. Another episode of the Launchcast. Thanks.
Launch sequence terminated.
Into the black hole.
Thanks for listening to the Launchcast today. Please make sure to subscribe to this feed wherever podcasts are available. Follow me, George Andriopoulos, at Launchpad CEO on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And make sure to visit our website, guys, thelaunchcast.com. Looking forward to the next episode. See you soon, guys.